a crowded coffee shop, one empty chair. When she asked to share his table, he had no idea his carefully controlled life was about to change forever. Because sometimes the most powerful people in the world are completely powerless against something as simple as a genuine smile. Before we dive into this incredible story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss stories like this one. And stick around until the end, because the twist in this tale will absolutely blow your mind. Now, let's begin. Park Jin-moo was a man who controlled everything. At 34 years old, he had built a tech empire that most people only dream about. His company was worth billions. His decisions moved markets. His name appeared on magazine covers and business headlines. But wealth and power came with a price. Jin-moo had learned early that people wanted things from him. They wanted money, connections, opportunities, a piece of his success. So, he built walls, high ones. He kept his life organized, predictable, and most importantly, private. Every morning at exactly 7 o'clock, Jin-moo walked into the same coffee shop on the corner of 5th and Main. He sat at the same table in the back corner, ordered the same black coffee, and spent exactly 1 hour working on his laptop before heading to his office. Routine kept him grounded. Routine kept him safe. For 3 years, this pattern never changed. The baristas knew not to bother him. The other customers recognized him and kept their distance. Jin-moo liked it that way. No surprises, no complications, no messy human connections that could disappoint him. But on this particular Tuesday morning in October, something was different. The coffee shop was packed. Every single table was full, and people were standing around waiting for seats. Jin-moo had never seen it this crowded. Apparently there was some kind of internet outage in the surrounding buildings, and everyone had fled to this place for the Wi-Fi. He sat at his usual table, grateful he had arrived early enough to claim it, and tried to ignore the chaos around him. That's when he saw her. She walked through the door, and somehow, despite the noise in the crowd, Jin-moo noticed she was beautiful. Yes, but it wasn't just that. She had this presence, this energy that seemed to light up the room. Her skin was a rich, warm brown that glowed even in the harsh coffee shop lighting. Her hair was natural, pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore scrubs, the kind nurses wear, with a denim jacket thrown over them. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just herself, completely authentically herself. She got her coffee and turned to look for a seat. Her eyes scanned the crowded room with growing disappointment. Jin-moo watched as she smiled apologetically at a couple who had no extra chairs, then checked another full table. She was about to give up when her eyes landed on him, on his table, on the one empty chair across from him. For a moment she hesitated. Jin-moo could see her weighing whether to approach or just leave. Then she took a breath, walked over, and gave him the warmest smile he had ever seen. "Excuse me," she said, her voice gentle and kind. "I'm so sorry to bother you, but would it be okay if I share this table? Everywhere else is completely full." Jin-moo's first instinct was to say no. He always said no. This was his time, his space, his routine. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the genuine kindness in her eyes. Maybe it was the fact that she asked so politely without any sense of entitlement. Or maybe it was simply that smile which made him feel something he hadn't felt in years. Warmth. He nodded. "Sure, go ahead." "Thank you so much," she said, settling into the chair with visible relief. "You're a lifesaver. I've got 20 minutes before my shift, and I really needed this coffee." She pulled out a worn notebook and a pencil case, opened her coffee with one hand, and started sketching. Just like that, she didn't try to make conversation. She didn't ask who he was or what he did. She didn't pull out her phone and start taking pictures to post on social media. She just sat there completely absorbed in her drawing, humming softly under her breath. Jin-moo pretended to work on his laptop, but he couldn't concentrate. He kept glancing up at her at the way her face relaxed when she drew, at the little smile that played on her lips when she got a line just right. at the way she bit her lower lip when she was thinking. She was mesmerizing. And the strangest part was that she had no idea he was watching. She was completely lost in her own world, creating something beautiful on that page. 15 minutes passed in comfortable silence. Then it happened. She reached for her coffee without looking, and her elbow knocked it slightly. The cup tipped and coffee splashed across the corner of her notebook, bleeding into her drawing. Jin-moo expected frustration, anger, the kind of reaction he saw from people in his world when the smallest thing went wrong. Instead, she laughed, a real genuine from the belly laugh. "Well," she said, looking at the coffee-stained page with amusement, "that's one way to add texture to the piece. Maybe I'll start a whole new style. Coffee splash art could be the next big thing." Jin-moo found himself smiling. Actually smiling. When was the last time he had done that? He grabbed some napkins from the dispenser and handed them to her. "Here, thank you," she said, dabbing at the page. "You know, most people would be upset about something like this, but I figure life's too short to cry over spilled coffee, literally." She looked up at him, and their eyes met properly for the first time. "I'm Arya, by the way." "Jin-moo," he replied, his voice softer than usual. "Nice to meet you, Jin-moo. Thanks again for letting me crash your table. I promise I'm not usually this clumsy. Well, actually, that's a lie. I'm pretty much always this clumsy, but I'm working on it." He found himself asking, "What are you drawing?" Her whole face lit up. "Oh, it's nothing really. Just some sketches for the kids at work. I'm a nurse at the children's hospital, and I like to draw little characters for them. It helps them feel less scared about procedures and stuff. This one's supposed to be a superhero teddy bear who's brave enough to get shots without crying, trying to inspire the little ones, you know." Jin-moo felt something shift in his chest. She worked with sick children. She drew pictures to make them feel better. And she talked about it like it was the most natural thing in the world, not like she was a saint or looking for praise, just like it was what any decent person would do. They talked for the next 40 minutes, though it felt like 10. She told him about the kids she worked with, about their resilience and their laughter. Even when they were in pain, he asked questions, genuinely curious, genuinely interested in a way he couldn't remember being interested in anything outside of work for years. She asked what he did, and he was vague, just saying he worked in tech. She didn't push, didn't pry, she just accepted it and moved on. When she finally looked at her watch, she gasped. "Oh no, I'm going to be late." She jumped up, gathering her things in a rush. "I'm so sorry I completely lost track of time. Thank you for the table and for the conversation. You really made my morning better." "Wait," Jin-moo said, standing up, but she was already heading for the door. She turned back just long enough to give him one more of those radiant smiles in a wave. "Maybe I'll see you around." And then she was gone. Jin-moo stood there for a long moment, staring at the door. He realized with a sinking feeling that he didn't know her last name. He didn't have her number. He had no way to find her. And for the first time in a very long time, Park Jin-moo felt completely powerless. He returned to the coffee shop the next morning at 7 sharp. She wasn't there. He came back the day after that and the day after that. A week passed, then 2. Jin-moo found himself distracted in meetings, his mind wandering to that laugh, that smile, those kind eyes. His assistant noticed that something was off. His friends, the few he had, asked if everything was okay. He brushed them off, but the truth was, nothing was okay. He was a billionaire who could have almost anything he wanted. And the one thing he wanted was a woman whose last name he didn't even know. On the 15th day, Jin-moo attended a charity event at a children's hospital. Usually he sent a representative to these things, but this time, something told him to go himself. His company was making a large donation, and the hospital wanted to show him around the pediatric ward. Jin-moo walked through the hallways, barely paying attention to the administrator's speech about patient care and new equipment. Then he heard it. A laugh. That laugh. His heart actually stopped for a moment. He turned toward the sound and looked through the window of a playroom. There she was, Arya, wearing scrubs decorated with cartoon characters, sitting on the floor with 5 or 6 children gathered around her. She was making funny voices, telling some kind of story with hand puppets, and the kids were giggling uncontrollably. One little boy, completely bald from chemotherapy, was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. Jinmu stood frozen in the doorway, just watching her, watching the way she gave each child her complete attention, the way she high-fived a little girl who looked too tired to smile but did anyway because of Arya's joy, the way she somehow made a hospital room feel like the safest, happiest place in the world. Then Arya looked up. Their eyes met. Her mouth dropped open in surprise, and then that smile broke across her face like sunshine. "Coffee shop guy," she exclaimed, standing up. The kids looked between them with curious expressions. Jinmu couldn't help but smile back. "Hi." During her break, they sat in the hospital cafeteria with terrible coffee and talked like old friends. She teased him about showing up at her workplace. "Are you following me now? Because I've got to tell you, stalking is generally frowned upon." He laughed. Actually laughed. "I'm here for a charity event. My company made a donation." "Wait, what company?" he told her. Her eyes went wide. "You're that Park Jin-moo, the tech billionaire." His heart sank. Here it came. Everything would change now. She would see him differently, treat him differently, want something from him. But instead, she just shook her head with an amused smile. "And you let me ramble on about my little nursing job like it was the most important thing in the world. You must have been so bored." "I wasn't," he said quickly, urgently. "I wasn't bored at all." That was the most interesting conversation I'd had in years. Something in his tone made her pause. She studied his face, and he felt like she could see right through him. Through the money, through the power, right down to the lonely person underneath. "Okay," she said softly. "I believe you." They started seeing each other after that. Jinmu would show up at the hospital with coffee for the staff, with books for the kids, with any excuse he could think of just to see her for a few minutes. Arya saw right through his tactics, but found them endearing. She teased him gently, called him out on his transparent attempts, but always with that warm smile that made his chest ache. When he finally asked her to dinner, she said yes without hesitation. He took her to a small Italian restaurant. Nothing flashy, nothing that would make her uncomfortable. They talked for 4 hours. She told him about her dream of creating an art therapy program for children fighting serious illnesses, a way to help them express their fears and hopes through creativity. He told her things he had never told anyone, about how lonely it was at the top, about how he couldn't remember the last time someone had asked him how he was feeling and actually wanted to know the answer. More dates followed, simple ones. They walked through parks and talked about everything and nothing. They went to art galleries where she explained techniques, and he just enjoyed watching her face light up. She cooked for him in her tiny apartment, and he realized he liked her burnt pasta better than any 5-star meal he had ever eaten. She made him laugh. She challenged him. She really saw him in a way no one ever had. Jinmu was falling in love deeply, completely terrifyingly in love. But he still hadn't told her the full truth about his wealth, about the extent of his empire, about the life she would be entering if they stayed together. He kept meaning to, but he was afraid. Afraid that once she knew everything, she would change. That she would start seeing him as Park Jin-moo, the billionaire, instead of just Jin-moo, the guy who liked her terrible cooking and her endless optimism. The truth came out anyway, as truth always does. One evening, Arya was at his penthouse apartment. She was flipping through channels while he made them tea when a news segment came on. "Tech billionaire Park Jin-moo announces major expansion," the reporter said. And suddenly Jin-moo's face filled the screen. Stock prices, net worth, business deals, all of it laid out in stark detail. Arya went very still. She turned to look at him, her expression unreadable. "That's you. All of that. You're worth how much?" Jinmu's throat went dry. "Arya, I can explain. You're a billionaire, like an actual billionaire. And you didn't tell me. I wanted to, he said quickly. I was going to. Everyone treats me differently when they know they want things, or they get weird, or they pretend to be someone they're not. You were the first person in years who just saw me as a regular person. I didn't want that to change. She stood up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. So, you lied to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. That's the same thing, Jinmu. She grabbed her jacket. I need some time to think. Arya, please. I just need time, she repeated and walked out. The next 3 days were the longest of Jinmu's life. He respected her request for space, didn't call, didn't text. But he felt like he was dying inside. He had finally found someone real, someone who made him want to be better, and he had ruined it by being a coward. On the 4th day, he made a decision. He went to the hospital board and made them an offer. He would fund a complete art therapy program, state-of-the-art facilities, full-time staff, everything Arya had dreamed about. But there was one condition. It had to be done anonymously. Arya couldn't know it was from him. He didn't want her to think he was trying to buy her forgiveness. He just wanted her dream to come true. Whether she ever spoke to him again or not, the hospital agreed. A week later, they announced the new program to their staff. Arya was called into a meeting where they told her about the generous anonymous donation that would make her vision a reality. She cried. She couldn't believe it was happening, but Arya was smart. She asked questions, she dug deeper. And eventually she found out the truth. She showed up at his office unannounced, walking past his shocked assistant and opening his door without knocking. Jinmu looked up from his desk, his heart in his throat. "Why did you do it?" she asked. He stood up, came around the desk but kept his distance. "Because your dream deserved to be real. You did this after I walked out on you, after I said I needed space. Why?" "Because I love you," he said simply. "And when you love someone, you want them to be happy, whether they choose to be with you or not." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I was so angry at you. I felt like you made a fool of me, like our whole relationship was based on a lie." "It wasn't," he said urgently. "Everything between us was real. The only thing I kept from you was the money, and I only did that because I was terrified. Everyone wants something from me, Arya. Everyone. But you just wanted to share a table. You saw me, not my bank account. I've never had that before. I didn't know how to handle it." She wiped her eyes. "You should have trusted me." "I know. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." She took a step toward him. "I don't care about your money, Jinmu. I never did. I care about the man who listened to me talk about sick kids for an hour and actually gave a damn. I care about the man who showed up every day for 2 weeks just hoping to see me. I care about the man who made my dream come true, even when he thought I might never forgive him." Clear his throat. "I'm that man," he said, his voice breaking. "With or without the billions, I'm that man when I'm with you. You make me that man." She closed the distance between them and put her hand on his chest. "Then be that man starting right now. No more secrets, no more walls, just us. Just us," he agreed. She kissed him, and it felt like coming home. 6 months later, Arya's art therapy program was helping hundreds of children. The walls of the hospital were covered with colourful paintings and drawings made by kids who were finding hope and joy even in their darkest moments. Jinmu still met Arya at that same coffee shop every Sunday morning. They sat at the same table in the back corner and he watched her sketch while he pretended to work on his laptop. And every single time he remembered the moment she walked up and asked, "Can I share this table?" The question that changed his entire life. Because real love doesn't care about bank accounts or status or carefully maintained walls. It shows up in a crowded room and asks for the one empty chair beside you. And if you're brave enough to say yes, it changes everything. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories of unexpected love and life-changing moments. Subscribe for more incredible tales that remind us what really matters in life, and drop a comment below. Do you believe in love at first sight or love that grows slowly? I read every single comment. Thanks for watching. And remember, sometimes the best things in life start with a simple question. See you in the next.